Hey, what's up, YouTube? How's you talks in the other room, not in the wood shop tonight. Came up with a topic. Oh, excuse me. I want to talk about. Actually, first I gotta get something on my chest, just because I got no one else to talk to about it. So I'll tell you, being a small business owner is hard. Sometimes it's hard. Like every once in a while, you have like. In this economy, with this kind of inflation, how hard we have to work to make money, and the hoops that we have to jump through to get things done in this environment, with this supply chain, and the illnesses and whatnot. It's very tough. It's very trying times, and sometimes you get a customer or a client that, like, I don't know. I got one now that I just can't seem to, like, please. Everything is a problem. Everything is wrong. And I've been jumping through hoops. And it's one of those jobs that, like, I knew I shouldn't have taken in the first place. Just from go, they were complaining about about my proposal. Like, not even the pricing. They were complaining about how it was written. And should have taken that as an omen, and just kind of like left that one on the bench. But as a small business owner, you don't know what next job is going to come around or come along. And that one was standing there, that was standing there staring at me. And so we jumped on it, and we've done a really good job for them. I mean, the place has come a long way. It's not an overly difficult job, but I don't know, the details. It's not even details at this point. It's timeline and I don't know, stuff that they picked out, Like, they put the front door in the house. The front door that they chose is the one that I suggested. After they rejected it and said that they didn't like it at all, I asked them to go pick a door out. And what they sent me was the door that I suggested them in the first place. And then we decided to do the garage doors. Like, we talked about them being, black panel doors with small rectangle windows in the top. And that's what they got. But that's the newest thing on the list of disappointments. And honestly, I'm just tired of I'm tired of disappointing somebody. Like, over and over and over again. It's very challenging to be in a position where everything you do, you know that you're just going to get knocked down for it. Again, this is Hazu Talks. You never really know what I'm going to talk to. What's up, Milo? My dog in here. This is Hazu Talks, and I just, I got to talk. I got to rant. I got to get something off my chest. So thank you for listening. If you have any advice, please comment below. And call me a crybaby if you want to. I don't really care. Maybe I am whining a little bit tonight, but it just gets old and it beats you up after a while. All right. I guess I kind of stole this information, and I want to talk about this. I think it's interesting because it kind of goes hand in hand with what we're facing in this country with the green movement, the Green New Deal, the environmental protection thing that they're trying to ram down our throats with driving up the prices of our fossil fuels, making it impossible to heat your home or use gas or drive too far or put diesel in your truck or run machinery, The bullshit number that they're talking about, 8.6% inflation. I don't know what they're basing those numbers on. Because gasoline is up 100%. Most food products on the shelves are up at least 100%. Some are up 200%. Clothing, just based on the idea of how much it costs to ship things from either overseas or even here in America by truck or train, have all gone up in price 30 or 40, maybe 50%. Like socks. Whatever. Go to Walmart, go anywhere, and look. Unless you're buying the sale item, this 8.6% inflation is bullshit, And what they're also not talking about, and they don't count into the whatever that CPI is number that they use. They also aren't factoring in shrinkflation. And if you know what shrinkflation is, that's where, and this happens mainly with food items, but it could happen in textiles as well. You know, I'm certain that if they're making jeans or t-shirts these days, that they're making them with a thinner thread, you know, and less denim and less weight because of the cost. And most of these retailers, or at least no, most of these manufacturers are smart enough to know that people don't want to see higher price tags. So the manufacturers are smart in the sense that they just reduce the quality of the thing that they're selling you, or they reduce the size of it in the packaging that they sell it in, but they sell it to you for the same price. And I saw this most recently with granola bars that I order, or that I buy. I don't know who makes them, Nature Made or something. They're pretty good. They're cashew butter dipped granola bars. I love them. And I noticed one day my wife bought me a package of them, and I opened them up and I looked at one of the bars and I was like, wow, this thing really looks like mini, like small. And I still had an old box at home, so I went home and I pulled out the old box and I looked at them, and I think that the old box, they were 1.88 ounces or something per, and the new ones were like 1.5 ounces per. So they reduced it by, I don't know, 12% in size, maybe. But the box that you bought had the same quantity in it. You know, whatever, how many bars. I think it was 48. It was at Costco. 48 bars in it for the box. And it was the same price of like $14 or something like that. But again, the big thing was they saved 12% in the volume of the material that they make them with, you know. So that's 12%, like I said, you know, or 10%, whatever. We saw it several years ago with the sugar, right? Sugar went to from 5-pound bags down to like 4-pound bags, and now it's even, sometimes I'm seeing it in 3-pound bags, you know. So when you buy a bag of sugar, you're not getting 5 pounds anymore, you know, you're getting a much smaller rate. And even that, those prices have gone up since then, obviously. I see all the soda manufacturers are doing it. Everybody's making these 8-ounce cans and whatnot. So you can't, and they're the thing that's going on sale that they're trying to push because they want people to buy them. Because eventually what they'll do is they'll take those 8 packs of the 8-ounce Diet Cokes that right now are on sale for, I don't know, $2.49 or something like that, and they'll be normally priced at $4 or something. And you know, that's how they get you. That's all shrinkflation. So this economy and this inflation that they're talking about is bullshit, you know. My notes that I took today is, this is something interesting because this has to do with the green energy thing and whatnot. And remember, as I often speak about, you know, we're dealing with an administration that was real big on talk during the debates. You know, made a lot of promises and talked about how they know how to get things done. You know, we've been in politics for 45 years, and they know how to work. They know how to reach across the aisle and get things done, and nothing's being done. But I found out today from a channel I watch, which I think is interesting, is that you know, the main supplier of solar panels that we buy from is China, obviously. The whole world buys from China. Everything, I think China produces like 75% or 80% of all the world's goods at this point. You know, which is really sad and tragic, if you want my opinion. Now, one of the recent events that happened, which there was a lot of talk, which I think that the administration is literally bought and owned by China. It's the only kind of explanation. Like, China paid Hunter like tens of millions of dollars, and they've been tied to the Biden family for years. You know what I mean? And you know, they're referring to him in all those messages as the big guy. And the big talk was the story of Ukraine. And I think that Ukraine was a smokescreen. I think they wanted you to talk about Ukraine and the and sitting on the board of Burisma. so that you weren't looking the other way, because the other way is much more deceptive. You know, I think that like the Chinese are very efficient and very smart people, and I think that they orchestrated this thing with Ukraine and Burisma and Hunter Biden, and Hunter's too stupid to know anything, you know, like to know that they're being set up, so that China could move in and do all these things. When we withdrew from Afghanistan, right? This is the big talk, or it was the big story 6 months ago, 5 months ago. We withdrew from Afghanistan in such a tragic way, leaving behind tens of billions of dollars worth of equipment and arms, right? We weren't gone a week before China moved in. So ask yourself, okay, be smart about this. Here we are trying to move our infrastructure to be better for our environment. And the best way to do that, you know, according to the administration, is to amp up your solar, amp up your wind farms, and amp up your, you know, whatever else you got to do. Don't use nuclear power though. That's proven clean, but no, don't use nuclear power. You know, they're worried about nuclear power because of the waste. Where do you put the waste? In 20 years, when all of those nuclear fuel cells go bad, where do you store them? But nobody asks a question about when all of these lithium ion batteries, and I'm talking about hundreds and hundreds of millions of tons over the next 10 years worth of lithium ion batteries that are just going to go bad, right, and not be usable anymore, where do they go? What are we going to do with them? You think that they're not going to be toxic and tragic to the environment? Or what do we do, just bury them in a mountain somewhere like we do with nuclear waste, and act like it's not a big deal, act like it's okay, that can be done? But the nuclear waste, you know, nuclear should be what we do, but, you know, whatever. China moved into Afghanistan immediately following our departure. And I think, honestly, that we were told by China, get out of Afghanistan. We got business in there now. You got 72 hours to get out. And we did, Ben. And we did it in the worst possible way. You know, we didn't use the Air Force Base like any not even intelligent. You don't have to be intelligent to know to use a military base to get out of there. You're protected on all sides. You know, nobody should have to tell you that. If you've made it to the President of the United States and you don't know that flying out of Newark International Airport with 200,000 people isn't going to be a clusterfuck, you're an idiot. You're an absolute idiot. You know, some things shouldn't need to be discussed or talked about. I don't care if you thought that their bullshit, they didn't want to protect themselves. They never did want to protect themselves. You know, they didn't want us there. They just wanted to live their lives the way they did. I always wondered what we were doing in there. I mean, I do know what we were doing in there. We were in there for the opium. We were in there to fund the drug trafficking. That's what we do. That's why we spent a decade having our troops guard the opium fields, under the premise that, well, if we don't guard the opium fields, then the Taliban and the ISIS will traffic the drugs, and they'll end up in America killing our youths. And well, that was happening anyway, right? Let's be real about it. That's exactly what was happening, and we were guarding the farms to make sure that their opium was converted to heroin and was ready to be shipped off. You know, it's all nonsense. But we don't need it. We didn't need them anymore for that because of fentanyl. And why? Because China perfected the manufacturing process for fentanyl, and they're making hundreds of tons of this stuff, and it's being flooded around the world and flooded into our country. And you know what you don't hear anymore? You're not hearing people dying on the news, that little ticker that I like to talk about. You're not hearing any talk of people dying from heroin overdoses. Never. Almost never do you hear that. Now what you're hearing is of people overdosing on fentanyl. Like, you know, what do they say? Fentanyl's 100 times more powerful than heroin? Well, guess what? 100% more people are dying from fentanyl than were dying from heroin. It's the leading cause of death between the ages of 18 and 28 or something, or 18 and 29 or something like that. Anyway, again, I rant. This is Hazu Talks, you know that. China moved right into Afghanistan in our departure. And what are they doing there? They're mining lithium. Imagine that. Rare earth minerals. They're mining lithium and copper in Afghanistan right now. And they moved in like immediately. Actually, they were moved. Their mining division was moved in before we left, but we were told at that point that we had to get out, I guess. Yeah, so China has their hand in lithium reserves and copper reserves, and they're the biggest manufacturer of solar panels and the biggest manufacturer of the batteries that are used for used in electric vehicles and whatnot. So yeah, that's what's happening in the world. And what are we doing? We're buying the solar panels and the batteries from China. Imagine that. We buy the solar panels from China. We buy the lithium batteries from China. Now the Biden administration is pushing the electric vehicles here on us. They're just ramming them down our throat. China profits from all this, and their economy improves. Remember, we're supposed to outpace China this year, right? Never going to happen. In Afghanistan, the Taliban gets richer because there is no government set up there, so they don't give a shit. They're selling their mineral rights for like nothing, for probably like bottles of Gatorade or some bullshit, you know. Like they're just giving away their mineral rights. They're making, I'm sure they're independently making some cash so that their little pocket families of whatever are becoming wealthy. But it's doing nothing for the Afghan people, and nobody's policing it, and nobody's watching over any of this shit. How many like Afghan children are probably mining lithium right now? You know, Chinese-run companies with slave labor brought to you by the Taliban. And the Taliban takes the money and funds terrorism around the world, right? That's what happens with the Taliban when you give them money. But yeah, so our savvy leader wasn't smart enough to broker any of these deals, huh? Remember, he gets things done, reaches across the aisle, talks to people. He knew all along that he wanted to go green. Why couldn't we have brokered a deal? Remember, didn't they call the Taliban a strategic partner? It was a strategic partnership when we were on the way out because we trusted the Taliban to let us leave, and they were protecting us so that we could get our people out of there. They were our partner. We called them our partner. They announced that shit on TV, right? We couldn't have brokered a deal with them so that we could mine the lithium. We could have done it in a humanitarian way, without the slave labor and without all the death and destruction and whatnot, you know? You know what it is, people? We're falling behind the rest of the world. America is a great country, has always been a great country. Probably is still the greatest country. But we're falling behind. We really are. And we don't have leadership right now. And I know I'm critical of the administration, but I'm critical of all of them. I'm critical of the Mitch McConnells and the Lindsey Grahams and the Marco Rubios and all these guys. None of them are doing anything. And you know, okay, I probably come across more as a libertarian, but you know what? They're all small and divided up too, and they're not doing anything. You know, like I would vote Democrat if you gave me a Democrat that you could prove was interested in the American people, that was interested in the prosperity and the health of the American people, you know? I mean, what's the big story in the news today, or in the news like that you've been hearing about? Which I hope this is true, but somehow I feel like this is going to be a sham too. But isn't the guy who owns the Dallas Mavericks, I forget his name right now, but you know who I'm talking about, the guy from Shark Tank, right? He created, Mark Cuban, he created a pharmaceutical company that's like privately held or privately run, and he doesn't have to go through, what's he not have to go through the FDA or something, or he doesn't have any contracts with these big pharma companies, so he's able to sell medicines at like a fraction, literally like a large fraction of the cost of what these drugs normally go for. And if that's true, I applaud this man and bravo. And it's about goddamn time another billionaire steps up to the plate, and is doing the right thing. If you took the 10 or 15 richest men in the world, or in America at least, the Elon Musk, the Jeff Bezos, the Mark Cuban, Bill Gates, you can count him out because he's not going to do nothing. But you get together a bunch of these guys, they could fundamentally change the world from a health perspective, from a pharmaceutical company perspective, from a farming perspective, from a housing perspective, from a mortgages and debt perspective. Get rid of these giant goddamn conglomerate monopolies that own everything, and put your trust in a handful of, I'm going to say a few billionaires, and people are going to get mad and be like, oh, nobody should be worth $1 billion. It's unfair. You know how many families you can feed with $1 billion? That's true. There's a TED Talk I watched a long time ago, and it really intrigued me and made a lot of sense to me. It was about a guy who was running a nonprofit for cancer research, and he was very, very good at it. And this has everything to do with the stigma and the perception of something. But it's one of my favorite TED Talks that I ever saw. So this guy was in the business of promoting this cancer research and raising money, and he was very successful. He was part of the Susan B. Komen thing, and he had raised tens of millions of dollars, if not $100 million, and he wanted to scale it up. And he went to the cancer research and the pharmaceutical companies and whatnot, and he pitched. He gave them the pitch, and he said, "Listen, we do this as a nonprofit, and everything we do is based on donations, and donations are tax exempt, and everybody wants the write-offs, blah blah blah." He goes, "And I'm doing this, in my spare time because it's nonprofit, and I have to work a full-time job." And I could be so much more effective if I could draw a salary. And it's going to seem like a lot of money at the time, but he did this thing where he wanted to fundamentally change two things about his nonprofit. He wanted to draw a salary. And I don't know what it was. I'm going to call it modest, but I think it was over 6 figures. Which, right or wrong, I'm not trying to tell you what I think about that, but, I listened to the pitch. So he wanted to draw a salary, and he wanted to advertise. He wanted to use a certain percentage of the donations so that he could reach more people to therefore get more donations. And, his pitch went a little bit like, I'm going to make $100,000 a year, and last year we raised $50 million. I'm going to take 15% of that $50 million, and we're going to advertise and get our name out there to more people to raise more money. And the projection was that they were going to take whatever 15% of 50 million is, like 7.5 million. He took $7.5 million. He was going to take $7.5 million of the 50 million plus pay his own salary, and he was going to invest it into radio, media, TV, and billboards and newspaper media, just to get the name out there to try to drum up more donations. And he projected that if he had taken that 7.5 million and he reached the number of households that he was trying and people that he was trying to reach, that this year, instead of raising $50 million in donations, they could have raised $200 million or $180 million or something like that. It was like a 3 to 4 time increase in donations, and it would have come at the expense of the $7.5 million. And yes, next year he would have, if they raised $200 million, he would have invested $30 million to do the same exact thing. But think about it, from the cancer, raising the money for the cancer awareness and cure, they were already way ahead. If they raised $200 million, they were already 150 over where they were the year before in the tax exempt donations, right? So it's like a win-win. But the stigma of drawing a salary and spending donated money on advertising got him fired from It might have been the Susan B. Komen organization, honestly. I'm not really sure. It's a TED Talk from about 7 years ago, 8 years ago. I challenge you to like watch it because it's pretty brilliant, you know. But he got fired. He ended up, or was forced to resign because of the stigmas associated with this kind of thing. So, you know, I'm not really sure how I got on that, but sometimes you gotta spend good money to do more good. That's it for tonight from Hazu Talks, guys. Thanks for listening to me. Please like and subscribe and share my videos with, you know, all your friends and family, or even people you hate. Who cares? All right, talk to you soon.